breathe purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in, Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, February 11th edition of the program. It is game day for East Carolina basketball. The Pirates will host the UAB Blazers, a tournament team from last year and one of the top teams in the American tonight inside Minges Coliseum. We'll discuss that. We'll also get into the breakout season of a first-year transfer, CJ Walker, who hit a game winner against UTSA. Haven't really had a chance to discuss that because we talked ECU Baseball Super Bowl on Monday's show. Really want to get into CJ Walker's breakthrough as a transfer. Really good year for ECU. We'll talk about that. We have ECU Baseball on the docket today. We're 3 days away from first pitch inside Clark LeClair Stadium. We'll continue our ECU Baseball roster rundown. By the way, our first Bucks on the Pond Hoist the Colors podcast of the season dropped last night. You can get that on our Hoist the Colors podcast channel. We made all of our preseason predictions with Jonathan Wagner, Scott Lorbatcher, so you can check that out as well, now on your social media accounts. And we're going to welcome to the show later today, Darren Vaught, play-by-play voice for ECU basketball. So we've got a lot to discuss over the course of the next hour. As always, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you got a question, a comment, a concern, drop it there. Remember to subscribe and like on YouTube. Our numbers continue to grow on the 94.3 The Game YouTube page. And anytime you subscribe and hit the little notifications bell, you'll know when we go live or when the Patrick Johnson Show goes live or any other broadcast we have on 94.3 The Game. All right, Philip Pilkington is back in the 94.3 The Game studios. He is producing. Philip, how you doing on this Tuesday?
I'm good. I'm really good. And, I'm excited today to see if your hair changes throughout the show, much like it did yesterday. The biggest thing that you and CJ Walker have in common, now CJ's a lot more creative with his hair than you, but yesterday you started the show with short hair, you grew it out between segments, and then you got it cut during the second commercial break. So I don't know how you got it to grow so fast. I don't know if you're like Popeye with his spinach, but for you it's the hair instead of the guns. Yeah, I'm not really sure how you did it, but it was really interesting yesterday. I want to see what happens today with Stephen Igo's hair.
It's the magic of sports talk radio. When you have a hairdresser as your wife, you can get your hair cut and get extensions during the show, especially when you broadcast from home. So that was my secret, Philip.
Makes more sense. Better theory than the Popeye thing I had. I pictured you like opening your mouth and dumping the spinach in, and that it just worked for your hair. As somebody whose hairline is probably receding these days, I could actually use that. So we'll see if I can. Getting old is tough, Philip. I'm going to be, I don't even know how old I am. I'm going to be 33 in about a month and a half. It's tough, man. It's all downhill from here. Are we going to do anything special in the studio for your birthday?
Absolutely not. Please, okay. No cakes. Definitely no cakes inside of a little shoe like Joe Sampson got to eat.
Joe lives too far away. We're good there.
This is true. So as you get older, your birthdays become less and less relevant, and mine will certainly be that in about a month and a half. All right, Philip, before we get into ECU basketball talk, we got to hit on some big news. Yesterday, Mike Houston, former East Carolina coach, it was broken by Pete Thamel of ESPN that he will be heading to Clemson to join Dabo Swinney's staff. And I'd heard that Coach Houston was looking into possibilities to kind of, join a staff in this role where he's not really an on-field coach per se. Now, he can still, with the expanded rules, so you can pretty much have almost as many coaches as you want, but not one of the 10 full-time coaches who's coaching a specific room. But he's going to join Clemson's staff, see what connections he can make there, obviously help out in any way he can on the defensive side of the football. And from my understanding, there's been multiple reports. It's kind of like a volunteer, unpaid job. I haven't confirmed that, but wouldn't be a surprise. ECU owes him $1.4 million over the next 2 years. So the only way this helps out ECU is if he's getting paid. Let's say if he was getting paid $100,000 by Clemson, which it sounds like he's not, but just as an example, whatever he is making from his new job, you can subtract that from what ECU owes him. So if he was making $100,000, ECU would only owe him $1.3 million. But in this case, it sounds like he's not going to get paid much, if at all, anything from Clemson. And so ECU will be on the hook for the full $1.4 million over the next 2 years, each of the next 2 years. But still, happy for Mike Houston. Look, it's a cool gig. He's got ties with the Carolinas. From my understanding, he's kind of had some meetings in the past with Dabo Swinney with his other stops. Obviously, he worked at the Citadel, which is in South Carolina, and then when he was at James Madison, they did some stuff during the offseason. So that's the connection that led him to Clemson, and pretty cool opportunity for the Houston family down in one of the premier programs in the Southeast.
It is, and that's special because of all the the history and not long time history ago, but what the current regime has done there under Dabo Swinney. It's a great opportunity for Coach Houston. And, you mentioned he's not one of your 10 full-time coaches, but, hey, that's college football, right? It seems like every Division I program right now has minimum 4 analysts, 2 on the offensive side of the ball, 2 on the defensive side of the ball. And usually on your analyst things, you have – so for defense, for example, that's what he'll be. You have one defensive-minded guy and usually one offensive-minded guy. So the offensive-minded guy kind of sits there and goes, hey, this is what we're showing on film that maybe offenses are picking up on. He attacks it from an opponent standpoint. And then when you're the defensive analyst on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is what Coach Houston's going to be, obviously with him having more of a defensive background, it's going to be, hey, how can we get better? And you pretty much just sit around, I think, all day and watch film on yourself, and then you meet with the position room coaches so that they can make, and the coordinators so that they can make the correct decisions to going into install each week and how they want to progress things. So, Coach Houston's a big film room guy, very smart, high IQ, and loves to go in there and pick up on things. We always hear about it from the players. We heard about it from Joe, how he would pick up on the smallest of things. So he is more than qualified for this role. I'm excited for him, and great to see that he's going to move on with his coaching career, especially at a program like the Clemson Tigers.
Happy for Coach Houston. Kenny Curlins in the chat says, congratulations to Coach Houston for his hiring at Clemson. Thank you for all you did at ECU. He also wants to know, is there any news on us hiring a new general manager? So, Kenny, don't have any news to break there. I am working on getting Blake Harrell on the show. I just got a text from Malcolm Gray. He can come in next Friday. So we may have to move Bobby, out of the way, and we'll have to relocate Bobby's appearance. If we can get Blake on next Friday, the 21st, we'll see if we can do that.
Blake's going to have to give some baseball analysis. Look.
That is true.
Come on, but it is Friday of the Carolina game. Sorry, Coach Harrell. You're going to have to know your baseball before you come on. Get your homework done, Blake.
We'll have to make him read a scouting report on what to expect between the Tar Heels and the Pirates. So, Kenny, I don't have an answer there. I do know that when Noah Joseph was hired, Blake Harrell interviewed several candidates, and I would expect, if not one of those, somebody that Blake talked to previously. The toughest thing this time of year is you've got people who are pretty much settled into new roles, and you're going to have to try and find somebody, if you want to hire a quality candidate, to leave that role potentially. So that's the kind of the hang-up now, unless you're hiring somebody who is not currently employed. So we'll try to get that information as soon as possible. Thanks for the question. All right, Philip Pilkington, before we get to Darren Vaught here in a little bit, wanted to talk some basketball with you. East Carolina and UTSA. We didn't really get the chance to talk about it on Monday due to the Super Bowl and also East Carolina baseball, but I kind of figured this would happen. Not that they would win a last-second shot, but poor performance against Rice. I expected them to play better. And something about this team in the dramatic moments, they've had a number of road wins this year. I think 3 of the last 4 at the end. And C.J. Walker, who we'll get into more here in a minute, hits the game-winner tough shot. Looks like he got even fouled, but just a monster performance, 28 points, 10 rebounds. ECU finds a way to win on the road. And it's like every time I'm ready to write off this team, Philip, they find a way to win and keep me interested again.
I think I said this last year, but it's like that toxic relationship, right? You're about to break up
really
with them,
is.
and then they lure you back in. And, one of the things that this team has done well is win the tight games. I know that other than the Rice game, every game had been in conference play 10 points or less. So they've been playing tight games all around. But seems like they win a lot of the one-possession games. Obviously, they had the heartbreaking loss to North Texas a year ago. So there are some examples. I'm sure there's a few other. I just can't think of off the top of my head. But you go out there and you don't only win a tight game, but you win a tight game where you had to score 80 points to do it. And we sit here and we complain about how bad this offense is and how inconsistent this offense is. Now, if they're going to win games, it's going to be 65-64. Well, they just shut us up real quick, and a big part of that is C.J. Walker. And I think when C.J. is on, it takes that pressure off of R.J., both scoring but also rebounding. There was a stint there, even part of it was during that win streak they put together, where RJ was the leading rebounder. I love RJ's hustle. I love that RJ's having double-doubles. He still shouldn't be your leading rebounder. You need someone 6'8" or higher to lead the team in rebounds. That's how basketball works, and that is how C.J. Walker has been playing of late. He's been doing it on the offensive side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, both with rebounding and with just his play. And look, man, the team is different when he's on because they can't pack the lane and focus on RJ and triple team him every time he drives, which has kind of been the repeating thing that happens in a lot of these games where the Pirates lose and RJ doesn't have a lot of points. You think of the UNCW game. You think a few of those early games in conference play. That's what happened. Well, when CJ's playing this way, they can't play RJ like that.
So I sent you the title of today's show, and it was the start of it was C.J. Walker's emergence as a star for ECU. And like when they added him in the portal, I had seen him multiple times at UCF play in Minges, and he was always a freak athlete, and he always had talent. He was a 5-star out of high school for a reason. But I just never expected this version of C.J. Walker, and it's a credit to him, his talent, the production, and obviously the consistency. And staying healthy has been a big issue in the past for him. He's been able to stay healthy this year, knock on wood. That continues. But he has been extremely efficient. Philip, you look at his numbers, 53.4% from the floor. He's been shooting the three ball, not a ton lately, but a little bit, enough to keep teams honest. He's the second leading rebounder of the team, pulling out 6.9 boards per game. 16 steals, 21 blocks, which is tied for the team lead, along with Jay Shane Woodard. I thought C.J. Walker would definitely start. I thought he'd be a solid piece. I just never expected him to be this good, and he's proven me wrong. And when I heard that, the ECU is paying him a lot of money through NIL, that's how they got him. I think it was TCU he was originally committed to. I was a little skeptical of it. I wasn't crazy about this roster build, but the decision to bring in C.J. Walker has 100% been the right one. He's surpassed my expectations. I don't know about you, Philip, but the level we're seeing C.J. Walker playing at right now is pretty insane.
Well, he's playing to his ceiling, and this is the player we knew he could be coming out of high school, to your point. And I think it was the player we knew he could be when he came to Greenville. The reason why we had a little less expectations was the injuries. With injuries, was he going to be able to be in the lineup consistent enough to play 35 minutes a game, to develop chemistry with his teammates, to be in the shape he needed, both just from running up and down the court as well as a shot-making shape? But we knew, I think, that if, by some miracle he stayed healthy, I think we knew that this was a possibility. Was it what we 100% maybe would have bet money that he would have been this good? No, but we knew the potential was there, and he's living up to his potential, and he's living up to the check he's getting written. And we've always talked about that in pro sports. Now we're having to talk about it in college sports. But when you pay a guy, you want him to live up to that dollar sign next to his name. And now if the Panthers can get Miles Sanders to do it, I'd be really happy.
Yeah, good luck with that one. We've got to get a break in. We'll get to Darren here in a second. We do have some comments. Johnny Robertson's got a good question we'll get to here in a little bit. Lane Smith, not a fan of basketball talk. He says they are a 13-11. They are written off. He says he's turning on Bucks on the Pond Part 2 for more baseball talk. Cameron says, once again, ECU basketball has a chance to change the momentum of the season. Must-win game tonight by Mike Schwartz. Hunter Corbett says ECU basketball is a toxic ex. Don't get hooked back into that messy relationship. Well, sorry, Hunter. We're going to talk more basketball. On the other side, let's get a break in.
Hang on. Darren is still on the phone with Coach Schwartz doing their call, so he's running a little late. So your call, we can take the break, but Darren said it might be closer to 12:20 before he gets on. He just texted me. Sorry, I would have texted you, but you were already throwing a break.
And in that case, let's get to this question by Johnny Robertson, which I think is a valid question. He says, I am not someone who criticizes coaches, but I am not a fan of benching C.J. Walker and R.J. to start the game. Both of them have proven that they can play 40 minutes. What is the intended strategy here? So I I guess the strategy has to be more mental than anything because, Philip, if you're looking at it from this perspective, and maybe I'm looking at it wrong, if you're trying to give a guy a rest, you would not want to give him that rest at the start of the game. Obviously, you'd want to break it up and give it to him, middle of the first half, late first half, coming into or going late, right before a media timeout. That way he can sit there in the media timeout as well. Like, to me, if you're trying to get extra rest, benching a guy to start the game does nothing. I don't know. I mean, maybe he could play less minutes overall, but I would think you would want to give him a rest in the middle of the game. So I'm not a fan of not starting either of your best players too. I guess it worked in the case ECU won, but to me, I'm just not. I don't know. I'd have to ask Mike Schwartz, and maybe we can ask him after the game if neither of those guys start again. But what's your take on Johnny's question there? I think there is some valid, I don't want to say criticism, but valid question as to why that is happening.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because if I answered it truthfully, I would just repeat what you just said and what Johnny wants to say, I think, without typing out a paragraph. So my devil's advocate is, yes, they're two of the most talented players, but they're also two of the highest IQ players on the team. And sometimes when you get high IQ guys, they like to sit down and almost scout, not necessarily the opponent, but just the game as a whole. There are guys that, it doesn't happen a lot, but I was talking to actually Patrick's dad about this, and, he was a Division III basketball coach, and his daughter, who was the all-time leading scorer at Peace, a lot of times she wouldn't start, even though she was the all-time leading scorer and the best player on the team when she was there, so she could kind of sit, watch, see what the flow of the game was early, and then almost hit the ground running, as opposed to, anybody who played basketball, even if you played at the rec level, those first 2 or 3 minutes are such a filling out process of what the speed of the game is going to be like, how the officials are calling the game, and a lot of those things. So sometimes better players like to kind of sit, see what happens, and then they can go in there and hit the ground running. And I could be 100% wrong with this, just playing devil's advocate here and just speaking of the way that I do know that some players in the past have gone about this situation.
So I'll ask Darren if he has any insights to this point when we get to him as well. Johnny Robertson adds at this point of the season and in RJ's career, playing him only 26 minutes is puzzling to me. RJ deserves better than to be sitting on the bench at the start of both halves. So I do think RJ at times has put a little too much pressure on himself this season. Maybe that has more to do with it than anything, the mental side, but I do agree. I would like to see both of them start to maximize their time on the court, but we'll have to see if we can get any further insight there. Let's get a break in. We'll come back. We'll see if we can get Darren Vaught hooked up on the other side, ECU basketball play-by-play voice. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes, just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown.
Living easy is the sound of children laughing as you make memories with neighbors and friends. It's the sound of nothing at all. It's the smell of the salt air. Hear the waters against the marsh grass. See the beauty of our coast. Bow Coast, located in Beaufort, North Carolina. Southern Living's best small town.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers in Greenville, plus the all-new Tiebreakers in Winterville. Do real burgers better than anybody. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, real burgers at its best.
Everybody loves
Everything you need
burgers.
to know in the world of ECU athletics. This is Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back into the show on a Tuesday, February 11th edition of the program. We talked a lot of ECU basketball segment 1, also some Mike Houston to Clemson discussion as well. We may touch on that a little bit later and get into some baseball talk. But right now, we're going to keep the hoops talk rolling. We've got Darren Vaught, ECU basketball play-by-play voice. I believe he was just on the phone with Mike Schwartz, catching up with him prior to tonight's game against UAB. And Darren, we were having a discussion. First off, welcome back, man. But the ECU basketball is almost like a toxic ex-girlfriend relationship. Every time we're ready to count them out, they come back and win a game to get them back in. So I don't know your thoughts on this team and find a way to win at UTSA. That was a big win the other night.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't help that narrative when after a game like the one in San Antonio, you get to talking to some people around the league, like people who it's not nothing that they feel this way or think this, but people who mentioned to me, it's like, wow, I thought PJ Haggerty at Memphis was the far and away player of the year in the conference. But the way CJ Walker is playing, and there's always the caveat of, well, you know, your guy's record might keep him from reaching such a height, such an honor. He's obviously going to have to continue to play really, really well, but that's part of that teasing element that you're talking about, right, Stephen? Like I would love for CJ to continue to play the way that he's playing and for it to be a factor in the Pirates going on a tear toward the end of the year here. It would be great. But the opponent tonight, UAB, is second in the conference, a really, really good team that has an excellent post player themselves in Yaxel Lindenborg. He was the preseason player of the year in the conference, averaging a double-double, and he's not like sneaking his way to that double-double. It's like 17 and a half, 10 and a half. Leads the team in 5 or 6 main categories, whatever the distinction is. He and Cooper Flagg of Duke are the only 2 players in the country to lead their team in all of those categories. So with all that being said, it's never not exciting, I guess, for Pirates basketball. And I'm thankful for that because, you know, as a play-by-play person, I like to call good games. It's a little bit different in this role with the Pirates. I want ECU to win as well. But I enjoy calling close games, and they've given plenty of those.
Yeah, I mean, the last 4 road games now, I guess, it's just they come down to the last play of regulation and obviously going to overtime at Temple and I guess overtime at Tulsa. So they've got a flair for the dramatic, Darren. And, you know, not going to C.J. Walker at the end of the Temple game was questioned by some fans. This time they do go to C.J. Walker, and he delivers. Man, I thought he got fouled on that final shot, but still makes it. And we were having a discussion, too, like what C.J. Walker is doing this season is pretty incredible. He was a highly rated kid out of high school, but I personally never expected this type of performance, and a lot of it comes down to health and consistency, which he's been. But I don't know, is this best case scenario, C.J. Walker? Like, did we ever expect this heading into the year?
Well, I think there's an element of, best case scenario, right? Like when you put yourself in the shoes of a coaching staff and you recruit a player like CJ, who has all the potential in the world, but has been saddled by injuries, for a lot of his career. I started to say his entire career, and that's not the case. But you're recruiting on potential a lot. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty close to best case. I love it for him. I don't know what true sense fans get of his personality by seeing him play on the floor, and obviously his hair and the decorations with his hairstyle are part of it as well. But just from like being around this team, there's a maturity to CJ that, and I don't necessarily mean that to say, oh, okay, it's a maturity that should be there because he's a 6-year college player. I think like from an aspect of like emotional intelligence and interacting with people, like there's not anybody in the traveling party. And again, when you do this and you travel with teams, you kind of get a feel for the usual dynamics. And with college basketball players, I mean, they're kids in a sense, just in the same sense. I mean, I'm in my 30s and I'm a kid to some degree, right? I mean, this is that's life, but there's not a person on the bus or on the plane that CJ is not like really familiar with and really able to have a good, meaningful conversation with, and not able to have like a joking interaction with. He's a one of a kind dude. I love it for him that he's been healthy this year, which I think if you would have asked most Pirate fans, that would have been the primary concern, right? It's like, okay, he could be a key contributor. Hope he stays healthy. But to see him really putting it all together, and you mentioned I was talking to Coach Schwartz. Part of what we were talking about was his move to playing the 5 for the first time in his career. So there's been a lot of intake informationally, a lot of processing that has happened this season with CJ, which I think is why it's been this upward trajectory, even as slight as it is or progressive as it has been. He's continually figured things out that maybe he was not making 100 on the test before, right? At the beginning of the season, the grades were always good, but he wasn't 100% on the test of, okay, this is something you've got to start to think about because you're playing the 5 instead of the 4. In this system, this is something you got to think about at this position. Obviously, the Pirates have changed schemes defensively and offensively at multiple points this season. It's okay, these are your responsibilities at this position, which you have never played before, right? So he's been processing, and it's been adding to his game so slightly up to this point. And I think that's a good indicator that maybe best case scenario for CJ Walker has yet to be seen, and we're a couple of weeks away from that.
Darren Vaught with us, ECU basketball play-by-play voice. And Darren, it seems like with RJ, I don't know, like something with the late game free throws. To me, it seems mental because he's such a good free throw shooter. And at times we were having the discussion about RJ and CJ coming off the bench to start the game, which, is a whole nother question as well. But like, do you feel like it's kind of mental at this point? Because he's making most of his free throws. It's just like, it seems like at the end of games, he's struggling in those moments on the line. Some of it could be fatigue as well, but I don't know. It seems more mental than anything.
Yeah, the fatigue, I think, is maybe a fair argument. The pushback that I would offer there is that he's always played a ton of minutes, and we've not seen this kind of slump at the free throw line before. That leads me to believe that, and this is understandable with anything, right? I mean, it's just once it happens a few times, you miss 4 free throws in the early going of a game, it gets in your head, and it's tough not to think about that. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's the case. These guys shoot a ton. RJ specifically, I think he's really taken this slump at the free throw line anyway to heart. He wants very, very badly to get out of it. And look, I mean, we've seen him make a bunch of free throws. It's not like there's something mechanically that's wrong. We all know that. So I think to your point, there's really no other direction to look other than, okay, it's mentally, it's in his head. RJ's just got to get to a point where he's not thinking about it anymore. And we saw this with his play more generally earlier in the season when he had those games of single digit outputs. And I think there's a point at which he's going to break through. And actually, CJ kind of had a smaller spell of this earlier in the year. And since then, he's been incredible from the free throw line, both in volume and percentage. So I think with RJ, there's just at some point, there's a threshold he's going to break through, and we're going to start to see him hit free throws again. Who knows that? I mean, it might take a little bit, right? Like the first threshold might be generally make free throws again, whereas the next threshold is I'm at the line late in a game in which my team could really use these points. Those are two different situations, two different things. So maybe it comes at once, maybe it comes progressively over the next handful of games. But it is a concern. I mean, it has kept the Pirates from polishing off games in the late minutes that they otherwise could and should.
The last game was the first we saw, I believe, CJ and RJ come off the bench together, and as far as not being the starting lineup. Any idea was that mental? Was that, I don't know, any explanation from Coach Schwartz? Or it seemed like both guys were generally healthy. So did you get any sort of background there?
Yeah, I was given a heads up by the coaching staff that it was something that was going to happen, but not to be alarmed. The indication is this coaching staff, and we've seen it with the array of starting lineups. I believe that was the 7th different starting lineup this season that the Pirates have used. There's something of like a holistic approach to a season that this coaching staff likes to implement. And for whatever reason, they felt it was going to put them in a situation to do well in the opening segment with Cam, Jay, and Jan in those 3 spots. In the, I guess Jan would have been the forward, so Jordan in the backcourt with those other 2, and then Jan with Trevi in the front court. And again, it's not like we haven't seen that this season to this point with this coaching staff, but they were both healthy. Like, I mean, there was no majorly concerning reason as far as I know that the 2 were not starting. And then, of course, CJ comes in and has his best game of his career after the fact. So clearly he's fine. But it was interesting to discover that, especially at this point in the season, right? Like it feels like you know the rotation. You're starting 5, and even, that's even with me. I've made the argument to some people that that's not the case for even good teams in the country, because of the way that you mishmash rosters together. I believe that whatever that point in the season is at which you can say every team has a good grasp on their rotation or whatever, I think that line has gotten pushed back over the past several years with the focus on transfer players and the majority of players being new to the rosters that they're on, right? Even with that being said, we're at a point in the season where it feels like we know the rotation for the Pirates. So yeah, I would say there probably were some smaller things at play that are involved in this start to finish, right? If you pull back the scope from just the one game, there's a start to finish model that this coaching staff is trying to use for the span of a season that may have lent itself to some reasoning that those guys just didn't start the game.
East Carolina UAB tonight. We'll see what the starting 5 is for the Pirates. And I think the line on this game, the last I checked last night, I think UAB was favored by 2, Darren, which to me shows like you never know what you're going to get in this league. The second place team coming to East Carolina, 2-point spread. So almost a toss-up game on ECU's home court. So, I'm expecting a competitive game, as you would anticipate in the American. UAB has been playing excellent in conference play after a slow start. They were the preseason favorite. They were in the tournament last year. You mentioned Linda Borg, who's just an incredible player. And they've got other guys. Christian Coleman's a stud as well. One of the best rebounding teams in the league. ECU, we know, can rebound. So how do you kind of handicap this matchup heading into tonight in Minges Coliseum?
Yeah, that 2-point spread's really interesting. But look, you can look through the schedule of any team in this league, and there are some head-scratching losses. There are some head-scratching wins for some of the teams toward the bottom of the league. It just goes to show that anything really can happen on any given night in the American. I think what's going to be most important here for the Pirates is the offensive rebounding. That is a category that they did not win at UTSA, and it was basically the only category that did not favor the Pirates in a way that meant, okay, they should probably win this game, especially compared to the way other games have gone. They're going to need to be really impressive on the boards against UAB to have a chance, because if there's any bit of tentativeness on the boards, UAB is a great rebounding team. You said it. Something else that jumps out is UAB is the 13th team in the country in points scored per game. They average not quite 84. They're going to move it. They're going to get points on the board. They run their transition in a way that they are really focused on, okay, if we bring it up 1 through 5 after a defensive rebound, we're going to run the break. If we bring it up and they're not stopping ball, we're just going to go to the paint where we shoot a very, very high percentage. So for the Pirates, you really got to, it sounds fundamental, you really got to focus in your defensive transition on stopping the ball and forcing them to make a pass. The other issue there is they score a lot of points, so obviously they're pretty good at capitalizing on those situations where you force them to pass. So it's a tough defensive assignment transitionally. I'm not as worried about the transition offense in terms of the Pirates being able to keep up with them. Obviously, having some 3-point shots fall would go a long way for ECU. But we've seen, and I think it's sort of come into focus this season in the games where the Pirates have had success, that they play relatively well in that style. Not necessarily that you're going to let UAB assert their tempo onto the game, but the Pirates can hang, especially in stretches, in a fast-paced, high-tempo kind of game. It's just a matter of if you let yourself get sucked into that and you start playing a little bit more outside of yourself, that's where you get the dreaded 5, even 6-minute scoring drought, and it doesn't feel like the Pirates are going to be able to afford a single one of those tonight.
Yeah, hopefully no patented scoring droughts for the Pirates tonight. That would be great. Darren Vaught, hey, we appreciate the time. I know, like all of us, you've got crossover season coming with baseball, college baseball this weekend, and basketball with the calls there. So we appreciate the time, man. We'll get you back on again later this season, but best of luck with crossover season, man.
Yeah, no, that's greatly appreciated. You guys know how it is, but you also know I love college baseball just as much as more actually than I love college basketball by a tiny bit. They're 1A and 1B. So this is the best time of the year for me, as hectic as it is. So always fun. Appreciate it.
No doubt. That's Darren Vaught. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk some Pirate baseball. Philip Pilkin and I, we've got to continue our ECU baseball roster rundown, introduce you to all the new names on this year's team ahead of Friday's season opener against George Mason. We will be right back.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227. Pirate fans, 2025 East Carolina football season tickets are on sale now and can be purchased for as little as $115. Head coach Blake Harrell wants you to be a part of his first full season as the Pirate coach as he builds momentum off of the 8-win season and the Military Bowl win over North Carolina State. Call 1-800-DIAL-ECU or go to ECUPirates.com today to get your 2025 season tickets.
We're live with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in. Hoist the Colors. Appreciate Darren Bald's time. ECU basketball play-by-play voice. Great insight, as always, on this year's Pirates and also the game tonight against UAB. If you missed any of that interview, you can check it out. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, archived on YouTube, Facebook, and X as well after the show. Philip Pilkington rejoins us, the man behind the glass. It's our ECU baseball roster rundown, Philip. I got to remember where we were. I think we were on number 29, Jason Janesco. Does that sound right?
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. I know we did Braxton Trammell. I don't remember really doing Braden Burris or Nick Moran, but did you do it one day when I was out or doing
I believe. Maybe I didn't.
Caught up doing another segment with somebody for something.
Let's see, because I know we did, I think we are on Braden Burris, actually. That makes sense, because I think we got to DiLorenzo, Hunter, Irby, Barron, and Braxton Trammell. So we'll start with Braden Burris. If we're doubling up, I'm sorry, but it's been hectic. I'm pretty sure we didn't do Burris. Honestly, I've talked about this baseball team so much between multiple podcast shows. We're probably going to have a repeat, but it's fine.
We talked to Coach about Braden Burris yesterday, but we didn't do it.
That may be
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, number 26, Braden Burris, freshman from Green Central High School, Snow Hill, North Carolina. If you haven't been following, what we're doing is we're going down the roster numerically, and we're telling you about every single player.
These guys. We did. We did him and Nick Moran. We did. Sorry to interrupt. Because I was looking at Moran's stats, and I remember saying if he can be the pitcher he was at Liberty last year with his ERA and with his numbers, that would be good enough for us on a Sunday. So we did do – sorry to interrupt, but we did do Nick Moran and Braden Burris.
You're good. That shows you how much I pay attention to my own show. Jason Janesco is number 29. See, I was right, though. I was right all along.
I questioned you, and it's all my fault, and I ruined the segment.
It's fine. people, if you need to know what number 26 is Braden Burris. Number 27 is Nick Moran. And now we're on to number 29, Jason Janesco. He's in his second year in the program. He's listed as a catcher/outfielder, but more than likely is going to be a backup outfielder who can play multiple positions. Athletic, 6 foot, 200 pounds, right-handed hitter. Last season appeared in 6 games, had at-bats against Ryder and Columbia. You know, seeing him in practice, he's got a little pop, but the main thing Jason Janesco brings is energy to the table. Good team guy, and I think it is a guy who could help in a pinch. He could pinch run. He may get some pinch hit opportunities this year. Has a little juice from the right-handed side. So Jason Janesco, don't expect him to start, Philip, but could provide a role off the bench.
He could, and you mentioned that pinch running opportunities. We saw him in that last year. We also saw him in defensive substitution opportunities. And yes, I think it will be outfield. He was active for the regional due to Walker Barron's broken jaw, so he was the third catcher in the regional, but didn't see any action behind the plate last year. Not saying he couldn't do it, but when you just look at the rest of the talent of this catcher room, I think he's a backup outfielder. Unless if he's playing catcher and this is not directed at him, we've got some problems because there's probably a lot of guys on injured reserve.
All right, Trevor Jackson is next up, and honestly, I've been out a lot of scrimmages, have not seen Trevor throw, and I know that he dealt with some arm soreness, I believe, at JUCO last year. Now, in 2023, 6'1", 215-pound right-handed pitcher, number 30, Trevor Jackson. 2023 at Logan College, he went 14 games, 8 starts, 5-3 with a 3.16 ERA, 51 strikeouts against 29 walks and 42 2/3 innings. Last season, those numbers dipped a bit. Again, appeared in 15 games, 6-1 record, 6 ERA, still high number of strikeouts, 63 and 54 innings, but 39 walks. So I don't know Trevor's health status, but looking at his numbers, and I have not seen him pitch, it looks like a high velocity, high spin guy. And if he's not commanding the baseball, that could be an issue. But he has some stuff, so maybe a bullpen arm in time. Philip, I don't know if you got anything to add here about JUCO transfer Trevor Jackson.
Yeah, he's got the winning numbers don't really show his ERA. So obviously the good thing is he's experienced, but it looks like he probably had a lot of run support if you go 6-1 and you have a 6 ERA. So he's gonna be another one of those guys where it's just a question of consistency, and that's probably what's going to be a lot of the back end of this bullpen, as it is for every bullpen in college baseball.
Speaking of consistency, this next gentleman, Jaden Winter, number 32. We're just kind of waiting for the breakout Jaden Winter year. And I guess it's now or never. He's a senior. He's shown flashes, Philip, 6'5", 245. I mean, he is a big dude on the mound. He throws hard. He is consistently 92 to 95. He can start because he can throw multiple pitches for strikes, but he can also be a guy who comes in throwing gas. And I just don't, if it ever clicks with Jaden Winter, I think he could be pretty special, but we've got to see it this season.
Yeah, it's weird that his strikeout numbers and his hits allowed are about the same. So it's like, is he a pitched contact guy? Is he a strikeout guy? I don't know. But like you said, I think it just comes down to the good inning. The good outings have been good, and the bad outings have been bad. And that's what even Austin Knight said in media day when asked about him. Was like, look, Jaden's got the potential. He's got to be more consistent.
All right, next on our list, number 33, Ethan Young. I'm really excited about Ethan. Velocity, he's 93 to 96. Swing and miss breaking ball, good stuff. Can throw 3 pitches for strikes. High velocity, kind of profiles as a back-end reliever. He was first out of the bullpen for the white team, which was the starting team this past Friday, throwing very hard, tough to hit. When he's in the zone, Philip, he is a definite back end of the bullpen type guy. So I would expect to see Ethan Young, number 33, hard throwing right-hander quite a bit early this season.
I think so. He's obviously got that experience, went to a community college, but also shout out to my fellow Hickory Ridge Raging Bull. So, he can be the most famous Raging Bull in all of Greenville, hopefully, by the end. If it's still me, that's not a good thing. So, hopefully, yeah, like I said, this could be a first out of the bullpen guy to get you out of jams if your starter gets into one in the 5th or 6th inning.
All right, we will take a break there, and we'll pick it up again. We'll maybe try to squeeze in one more after the break. Also get our final thoughts on ECU UAB. And we'll hit a lot more of these Wednesday and Thursday as we get closer to first pitch as we continue our roster rundown. This is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
Ready to go for big savings? You've got the green light at Greenville Toyota with a new Corolla just $239 a month or new Tacoma only $349 a month. The green light savings event is on right now at Greenville Toyota.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Everybody loves tiebreakers.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
Hey, grab me one too.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available, call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
Green is what you'll save during our Green Light Savings event at Greenville Toyota. Get a new Camry, $269 a month, or a new RAV4, $339 a month. When the green light is on, you save big at Greenville Toyota.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
Arr, matey!
Back to the show with Steve and I go on 94.3 The Game.
All right, welcome back in. Final segment here. Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday. It is game day. ECU basketball hosting UAB tonight. Philip Pilkington in the studio behind the glass with us. We'll close with some closing thoughts on tonight's game. We'll get back to our baseball roster rundown tomorrow. We still have 14 players left to do 3 days of programming before first pitch, so we'll get to the rest of those players in the coming days. ECU, a 2-point dog at last check. They are the 7th place team in the league at 5-6. UAB 8-2, second place in the league, right around top 100 in the net rankings. We touched on it with Darren Vaught, but UAB is a really interesting team, Philip. 15-8 overall, struggled in non-conference, despite having a lot of the same personnel back from last year's tournament team. They are 47th in offensive efficiency per KenPom. They are 68th in pace per KenPom, but they rank 248th in defensive efficiency per KenPom. So they're averaging 84 points a game. They give up a lot of points as well, but they rebound and they score a lot. So ECU, I guess, is going to have to score a lot to win tonight, but it sounds like if they execute offensively, they should get some real good opportunities.
They should, but one of the things that they are is they are top 10 in the country in offensive rebounds per game. Yes, they don't play extremely fast. Yes, their offense maybe isn't always efficient, but they have 4 or 5 guys getting to the glass every time, and they create a lot of extra possessions for themselves, much like the Pirates have over the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I think this will come down to whoever wins on the offensive glass will then win the basketball game. So that doesn't mean you have to be the better offensive rebounding team. It means you have to be the better defensive rebounding team. We know that both these teams can rebound offensively. I need to see good defensive rebounding for the Pirates if they want to win this basketball game.
CJ Walker's been playing great. I think tonight, we need a RJ Felton takeover game for ECU to win. UAB with Lindeborg and Christian Coleman, some of their size in the paint, I think it's going to be tough at times for Walker to score. It just feels like we're due for an RJ Felton game, Phillip, and I'm not trying to put too much pressure on him, but I think that's how ECU wins tonight.
Yeah, he's going to have to drive, and he's going to have to score prolifically as the athlete that he is. We've seen him do it so many times, but, hey, they're going to crash him on those drives. That means we've got to just hit 2 or 3 open threes. We cannot build a house with how many bricks we have. In order for RJ to have that big game, they're going to have to respect the 3 elsewhere. So please, 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 just hit the wide open ones. I'm not asking you to hit the contested ones. Hit the wide open ones. There's going to be a few wide open opportunities when RJ goes to drive.
All right, that'll do it for today's show. Again, we'll have our baseball roster rundown continuing throughout the rest of the week. We're also scheduled to have Dylan Johnson, new ECU baseball play-by-play voice. We'll have him on the show sometime tomorrow, and we'll introduce you to him as well. So looking forward to the rest of the week, continuing to preview baseball. We'll recap the basketball game as well tomorrow on Hoist the Colors. Thanks again to Darren Vaught. Thanks again to Phillip Pilkington. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon. See you then.